So welcome everybody. So glad you could join us this evening. It has been a beautiful sunny day today, and anyone with solar panels will be smiling knowing that they are harvesting free solar energy. Carolina Barberi and Joel Ideson will shortly have some interesting information to share with us about solar energy and batteries. But first, I would like to offer a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the land which we call Haliburton County is the traditional territory of the Mishi, Segig, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, and is also within the traditional unceded territories of the Algonquin Nation. The intent and spirit of the treaties that form the legal basis of Canada bind us to share the land for as long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the rivers flow. And now I would like to introduce our speakers. Carolina Barberi has over 25 years of project management experience. She has worked on single customer projects, national retail and healthcare chain sign programs, and global rebranding projects working with teams in Asia, Europe, and North America. She manages day-to-day operations and purchasing at Haliburton Solar and Wind and is always looking for best pricing for cost savings to the end user. Joel Ideson is a licensed master electrician with over 25 years of experience. His career path has provided Joel with a wealth of knowledge in trade specialties, including but not limited to hazardous locations, building automation systems, custom industrial control systems, PLC, and you'll have to tell me what that is later, Joel, control design, and programming and renewable energy. He has a passion for the environment, which is reflected in his career choices. Joel spent 6 years as head electrician and equipment specialist for the world's largest recycler of electronic devices prior to moving to Haliburton County and beginning his path in renewable energy. Joel has completed training courses covering some of the newest renewable energy innovations. After the presentation, we will have 15 minutes or so of questions and answers, and we are recording the presentation. And if you have any questions, please type them into the chat function, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. Please be sure to mute yourself so as not to distract from the presentation, and also turn off your camera if you're planning on moving around. And now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Carolina, who will share her screen.
All right, let's do this again. Got it?
Yeah, yes, perfect.
Excellent. Full screen. Don't have to double check. Okay, so this is great. We're here to talk a little bit about solar and battery storage, sort of how and where people are using it, why people are using it, the incentives available, and just dispel some myths, maybe answer some questions, talk about how it applies every day and how it can help everyone, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the main programs. So there's currently net metering, the home renovation savings program, which provides rebates for energy efficiency upgrades, which includes solar and energy storage. We'll talk about load displacement, which also is really important today, and fossil fuels and their place in our world and how they are used and how we're changing that I guess view, and an outlook for tomorrow, how things are changing in the future, etc. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll answer some questions afterwards. There we go. So we're going to talk about the energy and solar landscape, basically where energy comes in all of Ontario. We focused a little bit more on Ontario because that's where we live for now, so it makes sense. But we'll talk about where energy is coming from, what net metering is, what the rules are, and how it works, to explain what that avenue is. The current home renovation savings program that is in effect that provides rebates up to $10,000 on energy incentive or any energy upgrades. They're going to talk about the difference between net metering and load displacement, because you do, if you decide to go down that path, have to choose one over the other. You can't do one and then switch your mind to the other one. It won't work. So talking a little bit about how that affects that choice. Again, the role of fossil fuels today and steps to reduce our dependence on it, battery storage, recommendations, and of course, electricity cap. And we'll talk about that because that's important in our plans for electrification. Want to talk about this?
So the Ontario energy landscape for 2024, currently we have 51% of our total hydro our electricity provided in the province provided by nuclear, 24% by hydroelectric, 16% by natural gas, 9% wind, around 1% solar, and anything else from there, which comes down to biofuel generation. Is basically the only other thing I believe that falls in there. So I mean, we already have a fairly low carbon footprint in Ontario. Ontario, up until the 1980s, was primarily powered by hydroelectric and coal. We've now removed all the coal plants from Ontario, but we have a lot of nuclear. A lot of people are on the fence when it comes to nuclear power. I'm one of those, I'll fully admit. They call it clean, green power, but what happens to the nuclear waste after it's done? So there's a lot of open questions on that. Natural gas is one of the big providers of electricity here in Ontario, and gas plants are basically responsible right now for filling in the gaps on power. So they ramp up the gas plants to cover for peak electricity usage.
Okay. So based on this, we know that solar has a lot of capacity, but right now it really does provide a very tiny percentage of how much power we use in Ontario, and hopefully with the changes and more education and opportunity, that could grow, because we have lots of empty vacant land that can be used for creating power. Just needs the infrastructure.
And we've got lots of commercial roofs and lots of residential roofs that can also be generating power. So
exactly, parking lots, etc. Oh, there we go. So power generation. Oh, did I skip a slide? So this just gives you an overview of Ontario and where everything is and where the power is coming from. So you can see there's a lot of hydroelectric dams everywhere that provide our power. There's some wind turbine farms as you look down sort of the wind corridors. Still have some nuclear power down on the bottom. And you can see the solar. There are some solar fields, but there's a lot of big open spaces that, warrant, you can't really do hydro because there's no water. It might not be in the right wind, but if it's empty and it's possible for sun, this is a whole area where power can be generated for our needs in those big vacant spaces. So we'll talk a little bit about net metering. So I'm not sure if everybody knows what net metering is. Some of you do. Net metering is a great way to take advantage of the sun by providing two different things, or more than things. So when you mount solar panels with net metering, you can mount them on the roof or you can mount them on the ground. There's pros and cons to both, but net metering, when the sun is shining and it hits the solar panels, it is generating power. That power is powering your home. Anything that you produce that's more than your house needs will go to the grid in the form of a credit. Then, when you're pulling power, you can use some of those credits. So you're not paying for as much electricity because you're using your own electricity. Now, if you pair a battery system with that, now you can further increase your independence from the grid by creating your own power, using the power that's stored in your batteries. You can peak shave by discharging your batteries during the day when the costs are the highest, recharge at night when the costs are lower. Then, in the event of a power outage, you now have a self-generating backup power system. The sun shines, it powers your loads, it charges the batteries, the sun goes down, your loads are covered by the batteries, and it continues again tomorrow. So net metering is mandated to be offered to anyone in Ontario as long as there is capacity on the grid to accept your power. So that if it accepts the power and it's something that makes sense in your property, then net metering is for you. It reduces your overall bills. It credits your production. It puts power back into the grid, which helps the grid itself and the stability of the grid. And it's, again, it is regulated by the OEB to be offered to everybody.
All right. Well, the Home Renovation Savings Program is a new program that was launched this year in January in Ontario. So this gives homeowners the opportunity to save on energy-saving renovations on their home. And in our world, that comes down to solar. So you can install rooftop solar and save up to $5,000 on that system. It's $1,000 per kilowatt of rooftop solar installed. You can also save up to $5,000 on energy storage installed for your home. And that's $300 per kilowatt hour. So to qualify for the full $5,000, it works out to around 16.5 to 17 kilowatt hours of storage that you need to install in order to qualify for that additional 5,000. The full $10,000 caveat means that you cannot net meter in this case. But in this case, the systems are sized to produce as much power during the day as possible to provide to your loads at home and charge the batteries. And then through the evening and overnight, you're going to discharge your batteries to offset your loads. Once the batteries are discharged, you'll either go back to the grid, or when the sun comes up, you'll start to charge batteries again. So it's an excellent way to create savings, and it's an excellent way for homeowners to get an affordable solar system that provides backup. The Ontario government has really stepped up on this, and we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah. It's a lot of people sort of talk to the is battery backup right for me? Well, this is a great opportunity because you can get the $5,000 off batteries by adding some solar. So then you get to have the battery backup with the benefit of the solar recharging, which is pretty amazing. And then, down the road in the future, if you want to expand, you have that ability. But it's a great way to get a big cost savings off the initial setup of a solar system. So a lot of people have shown a lot of interest in it as well.
And this year, the price of lithium iron phosphate batteries has come down significantly. So with the rebates added to that reduction in cost, it's made energy storage, energy savings, energy generation much more accessible to the average homeowner.
So net metering versus load displacement. So as we said, you can either do net metering or load displacement, and you cannot do both. You can't do one and then change your mind later. They won't let you do that. So when deciding between one and the other, it's good to understand what the differences are. So with net metering, you're going to export extra power to the grid. So whatever you don't use goes back to the grid in the form of a credit. You earn those credits against future consumption. And then the ROI, like I said, we talk about ROI, it increases the ROI for systems, but really at the end of the day, ROI isn't always the best reason to do it. But of course, the more power you're saving, the more power you're producing, the more credits you're getting. As the cost of hydro goes up, that shortens your ROI on that investment. With load displacement, it's designed to operate paired with batteries. So what you're doing is you're going to consume all your generation, and you're going to store some of your generation. You're going to use and cycle through that. And then you're not exporting anything to the grid. You're still purchasing from the grid when you don't have enough. But because you're generating and storing and using all of your own power to the best of the ability that the system can provide, then you're going to, again, save money from the grid because you're not paying for the grid because you're using your own power. So with the current rebates, it is only eligible for load displacement. So you cannot net meter if you're doing a load displacement and vice versa. So now net metering versus load displacement, the trade-offs. So there's pros and cons. For net metering, the pros, it's a simpler install. You're going to have better long-term bill savings because for the duration of the program, the contract that you have with hydro, you're always going to be sending those credits and using your credits and using your power. So there's always going to be continued savings. No battery is required. You can still have all the savings without batteries, but you can certainly add batteries to that. With load displacement, you're maximizing self-consumption, can be paired with the incentives and batteries. So you don't, again, you don't have to do the incentives to get the rebate, but why wouldn't you if it's available? It's going to reduce the peak demand on the grid, so it's going to help stabilize the grid. In order to be able to really make an impact on the load displacement, you may have to put in that battery. You'll have to put in that battery system that you wouldn't have to put in with a net metering system to have instant positive impact. Now, what depends? Now, how do you know which ones to choose? Well, it's going to depend on all other things. Your lifestyle, how much power you use, when you're using the power, and the rules, like basically based on your consumption. Because with the load displacement, we have to size it to your load.
And because the load displacement program, the home renovation savings program, is limited to a rooftop.
Yeah.
If you don't have a suitable rooftop or your roof is heavily shaded,
Yeah,
then you're not going to qualify for the rebates. So net metering may be your better choice in that case. Anyone who has available land can install a ground mount array. In some cases, when we get into larger systems, ground mount arrays can be the same price or even less expensive than a rooftop system, and they produce phenomenally well.
All right. So why fossil fuels still matter in Ontario? I know our goal is to reduce fossil fuels, but in our climate, that's a little bit difficult. But we can certainly work on reducing how much we use through various different avenues. Currently, natural gas provides the bulk of a lot of our power. It's variable, it's easy to maintain. In a lot of communities, it's already present to feed all the homes. So the infrastructure is there, and it is easy for people to get to.
One thing that we forget about as Canadians too is Canada's Arctic is primarily powered by diesel generators. So looking toward diesel offset, we've worked on projects. I was actually just back from one a couple of weeks ago in Go Gamma, where we've taken locations that have run strictly on diesel generators, powering whether it's like a hunting and fishing camp, 100% with diesel. They've installed solar panels and batteries and taken their diesel generator use down to 20%. Now imagine doing that in the Arctic, how much environmental impact that will reduce. And not only that, how much logistical infrastructure it reduces, how much diesel they have to get to the Arctic through the winters. So there's a lot of bonuses and to solar and battery combinations in order to help reduce our reliance on diesel and natural gas.
I mean, one of the things we can talk a little bit about the ice storms that we had earlier in this year. A lot of people who relied strictly on diesel generators learned very, very, very quickly that the diesel generator wasn't a long-term solution. Or sorry, propane generators, because they're running unattended. After a while, if they don't have maintenance, they're not going to run. They run out of fuel. where people that had combination of battery backup with generators managed a lot better because the generator doesn't have to run the entire time. It's just recharging the batteries. And if you have solar, now it's like the trifecta. The sun is powering, the batteries are powering. When neither can do it, the generator comes on. So all of a sudden it becomes a harmony as opposed to strictly fossil fuel dependence or just battery dependence, which you can't do because without recharging capabilities, the batteries don't work either. So that need for that is important. As technology improves and batteries last longer, things that dependence on fossil fuels can certainly come down. And it is coming down a lot because of those changes, but it is still a requirement in our climate. We can't really live without it yet. That'll change. So then what's being done to reduce fossil fuel dependence? Large battery procurements. There are a lot of government initiatives to include more battery storage for backup. And we think that a lot of these rebate programs are setting things up for the future of possible, pulling from the customers battery banks to be able to stabilize the grid.
In some states, there's a program called the Virtual Power Plant Program that allows homeowners with batteries to sign up and allows the utility to use stored battery power from homeowners to stabilize the grid in brownout situations. My suspicion is that the Home Renovation Savings Program is the solar side of that is designed to move in that direction, but I'm not going to comment outside of that.
There's been a lot of long-term planning at the IESO for storage, for just better infrastructure that will allow again reduction in our fossil fuel dependence. And then the incentive programs, the encouraging electrification. The part of the Home Renovation Savings Program is for all efficiencies, including heat pumps, including windows and insulation, things like that can help reduce, to increase your home efficiency, reduce the need for fossil fuels, etc. So that's what the Home Renovation Savings Plan does do. It also covers that. So about that.
Well, Ontario's completing major battery procurements right now. There's currently calls for procurement for battery storage out in the market right now to add storage to solar fields and future projects. The storage will be there primarily to cover for evening peaks, to cover for large peak demand. In many cases in cities when factories ramp up, everybody's getting ready for work in the morning, the peak demand is extraordinarily excessive, and batteries have the ability to shave that peak down. Batteries also will help to defer some of the upgrades to our much needed infrastructure. If we can localize electricity more with microgrids and stop depending on nationwide infrastructure, then it bolsters communities when the infrastructure is affected by large storms. So the IESO is discussing possible short storage fleets currently in the 2,500 megawatt range, which is a massive amount of storage. But in the grand scheme of things, it's still a drop in the bucket when it comes to offsetting our power usage and getting our reliance on fossil fuels down.
All right. So if you wanted to sort of look at incorporating solar and battery into your life today, things like that, to your homes, the best thing to do is first to understand what your load profile is, find how much power you need and you use, because based on that information, you can determine whether a load displacement or a net metering system would work better for you. If you are eligible, you can apply for the Home Renovation Savings Plan rebates. They do prioritize heat pumps and insulation, of course, but they do include solar and storage. So a lot of people are really getting on board for that. Batteries are a great way to add battery backup. It is a possibility to back up your priority loads with a battery instead of a generator during a storm. The backup of so a battery backup is instantaneous. You don't even realize the power has gone out when it does transfer over to batteries. And the distribution companies, all the utilities have to offer these things, one or the other. So we can always get into talks about that and review that with them as well. The thing about batteries is battery technology is evolving, and as that changes, battery storage will increase in the ability, like in terms of size. You can store more battery in less space. It could just be more efficient, etc. But that's coming. Like everything new takes time to develop, but there are lots of different things in production for battery storage and energy storage in the future. Now, one of the things we want to talk about is battery storage cap. And this is sort of where things don't really make sense. Ontario is calling for electrification. They're promoting heat pumps and electric cars and all this stuff, which is a wonderful thing. But then they limit your ability to have batteries in your home at 80 kilowatts of storage. 80 kilowatts of storage is not enough. So I understand it was originally integrated because of safety. They were concerned, but there's been a lot of testing happened at the manufacturer levels where things have been tested. They are safe. It's proven safe. And again, as battery technology increases, the batteries will become more and more safe. But the demand is definitely outdated. They say the average home uses about 30 to 35 kilowatt hours a day. But that number is changing drastically, and it's changed now. With everything being electric in homes, that number is going up. So if they're basing their calculations on numbers of outdated data, then what we're putting in isn't going to be sufficient. Modern households with their electric vehicles, heat pumps, all electric systems, etc., are going to be higher than those limits. So if you're trying to offset power, then you have to increase that battery capacity so that it actually makes sense and you're offsetting power.
So expected consumption for the average home is going from, anywhere from 35 to 50 kilowatt hours a day to 150 to 250 kilowatt hours a day. I've personally seen some people's electricity use hit 300 plus kilowatt hours a day with big geothermal or heat pump systems, especially systems that aren't set up correctly and are relying on their electric heating coil. So 80 kilowatt hours a day on a home that uses 160 kilowatt hours in a day, or 80 kilowatt hours of storage, sorry, on a home that uses 160 kilowatt hours a day, is only going to provide you with about 12 hours of backup. So in essence, having a energy storage cap is essentially holding you back from being able to back yourself up and forcing you to rely on a propane or diesel generator in long-term outages. We're also limited here in Ontario on production. So there's a production cap in Ontario of 10 kilowatts. That is actually soon changing to 12 kilowatts by 2026. So we have, as an industry, managed to move that forward a little bit, but every other province and territory in Canada is able to generate 20 kilowatts at the residential level, which goes a long way to offsetting larger loads of larger heating systems, such as heat pumps and geothermal. So in that case, we need everybody out there to reach out and try and push for higher storage capacities and larger generation capacities for residential and small commercial customers.
I mean, when you think about it, a lot of people are replacing their propane and gas heating with electric, which is great. We're reducing fossil fuels. It's a wonderful thing. But then if the power goes out and you don't have a wood stove for emergency backup, you don't have enough battery storage to run your electric heat. So now you could potentially be left in a really dire situation where your house could get frozen, your pipes could freeze. If you have no alternate heat source and you have no way to power your electric heating, that's a problem. So you're pushing for electrification, but you're not providing the tools to make electrification possible across the board. So these are the things that we have to fight for. If you want that, you have to change the rules to allow us to live that electric life that you're trying to promote, which is, you know, why we're going to talk a little bit about that too. So policy, we're wanting them to reevaluate the 80 kilowatt hour cap to align with modern homes and modern demands. A tiered system. So for example, maybe you don't have an electric heat and you don't have an electric car and you don't want to have to, you know, have a larger storage system. That's fine. But maybe if you do have additional electric loads, maybe you should be eligible for larger backup to be able to provide power to those loads in the event of outages. Dynamic permitting, you know, if some places have more solar or bigger spaces, you should be allowed to have a larger array to provide more feedback, etc., and not be limited necessarily by the rule if, you know, you fall outside of that. Again, the electrification energy strategy, they want to be able to promote electrification, but they don't have this infrastructure to back that up yet. And the incentives. So again, the home renovation savings program is a great way to incentivize it. The fact that you're being, you know, hey, I'll give you something if you give something back. You're helping make the grid a little bit more stable, become more self-sufficient so that you're not as dependent on the grid. And hey, we'll give you money because you're doing that. So that's great across the board. So if you really want to make an impact to that, there's a couple of things that you can do to try to promote those changes at the government level. You reach out to the IESO. They, you know, they're the ones that start that dialogue for those rules. They control all of that. So let them know about your electrified life and how you don't have enough power and you can't have enough power in your home for storage. Contact the deputy minister and let them know about these energy caps and how they affect your goals for electrification. And again, members of parliament, same thing. They can assist with all of that. Talk to them, let them know those things are important to you, and then they can take them up to the next levels. And then there's some links which we can provide later as well. If you're interested in the home renovation savings program, that's the main link, and it talks about all the different rebates that they have that you're eligible for. The load displacement with or without. You can certainly do a load displacement system that doesn't go on your roof. It could be on the ground, but you don't qualify for the rebates if you do it that way. So that's if someone's interested in any of that. And then again, we're here. We help all of our customers go through their process. We do a lot of all their paperwork. We take care of all of the upfront stuff like that. So anything is like that. Now, our talk is a little shorter because there's probably going to be a lot of questions. So we've left some space for questions because it is a topic of a lot of interest.
So that's it for the presentation.
Yeah, that's all we have for now. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Caroline and Joel. That's fascinating stuff. And Joel and I have had the opportunity to chat about some of these topics. If you could, I guess, wonder if we could get those links.
I want to stop sharing the screen. Sorry.
Yeah, could you pop those links in the chat?
These ones? Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I can do these links and the other links to the IESO and the deputy minister. If anyone's interested in that, I can pop those in there too.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Let me figure out the sharing.
Some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stop here. There we go. All right.
So because we live in an area that has lots of winter, there's a couple of questions about how you manage snow. So Sue wondered about managing snow load on parking lot, and also how you recommend folks manage snow on their rooftop solar panels.
Okay.
So what was the first question?
You mentioned about installing solar panels in parking lots.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yes, yes.
So there are all kinds of carport systems out there that are available. So they give owners of parking lots the opportunity to put in sheltered parking, shaded parking, um, power generation, EV charging, all of that kind of wrapped up into one bundle. And not only that, but what's a parking lot doing other than sitting and housing cars? So if someone has the open space and has parking available, then it makes sense to throw in carports. They can easily be paid off relatively quickly with added EV chargers and pay per use setups.
I mean, if you think about it, if you have to go to a public EV charger, you got to sit and charge your car. Well, if you're going out somewhere and you have to stop anyway, you can plug your car in at the parking lot, go and do your things, go to a restaurant, go have lunch, do your shopping, come back, and your car's been charged.
And on a hot sunny day, you're not coming back to a car that's cooking hot either,
because it's
sitting in the shade.
Exactly.
So carports have a lot of advantages. They're really designed for commercial entities, but there are some residential carports that are made out there as well, and they're great for people that don't have space for a ground mount, don't have space for solar modules on the roof, but they have a nice sunny driveway and they need a place to park their car.
Perfect. And the second part of that question is, how do you manage the snow load on that or on your roof solar panels?
So when I design a rooftop solar system, I design it with our snow coverage in mind. And I always am frank and straightforward to our customers. And I put it this way with everyone every time. We have 10.4 kilowatts of solar on our roof. We have a 12-12 pitch, and for anyone who doesn't know what a 12-12 pitch is, that's basically a 45-degree angle on your roof. Because our house is 2 stories, it makes it very difficult to clean off in the winter. And I don't think we produce much more than a few kilowatts between December and March of this year. I don't beat around the bush on that. It's snow coverage in our area it's the biggest enemy of solar. So in many cases, if we're talking to a customer who wants to either prioritize the generation that's grid connected or is fully off grid, then a ground mount is your way to go. They're going to produce far better than anything on a roof, and you've got the ability to walk right up to it and clean it off with a painter's pole and a broom head. It makes it quite simple.
And if your roof is low and very easy to access, then you can brush it off with a broom. But we don't really recommend climbing around on your roof in the wintertime. That's a little dangerous. And if you do that, that's at your own choice. We don't do it. But because we're grid connected, we already assume that we're not going to have that production. And for us, when we're looking at net metering and battery backup, so we're looking at overall savings over 12 months. So if we have no production for 3 months, but we have huge credits, like our bills went from $260 a month in the summertime to $40 with credits accrued for next month's. So when you factor that in over the year, you're saving so much money that the loss of generation for a few months isn't really huge. Now, if you were off grid, you obviously don't want to put it on the roof because every bit of generation you can get in the wintertime is crucial to your system functioning. So yes, some roofs, if you're in a really open space with not a lot of coverage and really good wind, some solar panels on a roof will be uncovered, but we can't guarantee that because we don't know how much snow there is. We can't guarantee the weather. And so those are things really to factor in. So brushing off the snow, if you have ability to reach it, great. But other than that, on a lower system, you can clean it off, but on a roof, it's a little more dangerous.
I gave up on my roof after the first year, and I was bound and determined to keep it clean. So that just goes to show you it's quite the ordeal once you're over a story to do it. I guess we got a few more questions in here, eh?
Yeah, Dave asked about the home renovation savings program.
Hi, Dave. Go on.
For principal residences, or can recreational or rental properties?
Any property that's owned by you. So the previous the Greener Homes loan or the Greener Homes grant was only for your principal residence. The home renovation savings program is for any property that you own. So if it's a cab, if it's a cottage, if it's your second place that you rent out.
The only caveat is that it has to be grid connected.
Yes, has to be grid connected.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think it's self-apparent because of the renovation part, but presumably you can't take advantage of this for new builds.
It's a little gray right now. I know that they've said that there's really nothing in it that says you can't. It would really come down to making the application and going ahead. But I don't. I mean, there's nothing specifically says that new builds don't qualify in the program. So that's the only thing I would put out there, but it would probably be on a case by case basis, at least to put through the first one to find out if it would qualify.
Okay.
The Joanne Hunter asks about batteries. We all know about Tesla. What other options are there if we may not be fussy on supporting Elon?
Oh, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of
Lots and lots.
We happen to be in a time, and I like to compare our time of energy storage with the early days of car manufacturing, where anybody and everybody's kind of throwing their towel into it, and there's 1,000 manufacturers out there. The big players in what we call energy storage systems. So if you're thinking specifically of the Tesla style inverter and battery systems, kind of all in one. Tesla is one. We have one that at one point was called Point Guard, is now moved to Sigen Store, which is they've just rebranded to the global name. They're a stackable system. There's a company called EG4 that brands all their own inverters and batteries together. They're probably the best value system on the market today. There is a company called Solarc that makes inverters, and they have paired with pretty much every legitimate battery manufacturer in the world. So if you can find a battery that has UL 9540 certification with Solarc, you can use it. And that's, there's companies called like Volthium, they're a Canadian company. Discover Batteries, a Canadian company. Pites Battery is Chinese. Home Grid is English, I believe. So there are 1,000 companies out there. The name Canadian Solar, they're a big name in the solar industry. They even have their own battery system. So there's plenty out there. When it comes to type, lithium iron phosphate is the go-to battery now for home energy storage, which is stable, safe, and most battery systems come with built-in fire suppression now for peace of mind and safety in the home.
So Christine says, does that answer the question? Does that fill up enough space? Okay. So Christine says about net metering, and you're still subject to Hydro One's delivery charges. You are, however, those delivery charges are also reduced. When you do net metering, you basically have your hydro bill, it shows your production, and then it has your generation. And in your generation sides, which are credited in the negatives, it also does apply a portion of that to what you've produced. So they charge you, but then they credit a portion of that equivalent to what you've sent back.
Yeah, so you're essentially on a good month where you've produced lots and lots of power and you're accruing credit. You're paying your regulatory fees and some small delivery fees, and that's really about it.
Yeah. Okay. How hot does it get under solar panels installed on a roof?
In the 60 to 70 degrees Celsius range, around there. We are required to leave a significant gap between the roof. I mean, normally it's around 4 to 6 inches between the roof and the solar modules, so that air can flow underneath. If you ever see a solar array that's fully closed off and looks all nice and pretty and it doesn't look like there's any way of breathing, then there's a good chance that's going to burn out in a short time. Because if it can't breathe, you'll cook the diodes.
And but I think the heat is most intense when it's direct. As it moves over,
Yeah.
it would be less. Yeah. So the heat, the hottest point would be sort of the peak time in the day, and then that temperature would go down as it moved, the sun moved over, and vice versa. So it wouldn't be hot the entire time. Please speak about wind generation. Are there no programs to encourage wind? Are there?
Not really. Wind generation is difficult because turbines run fairly expensive. We kind of like to put it out there to people that you can purchase say a 3 kilowatt wind turbine and the tower you need and the bits and pieces for probably about $15,000. And then you're going to add all the concrete bases that you need to put it in and the wiring to erect it. So by the time you're said and done, you're probably pushing the $30,000 mark. That's a heck of a lot of solar panels that you can install. So it's typically is financially restrictive for a lot of people. And not only that, but wind power tends to require a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
So if you have a 60-foot tower, you need 30 feet in every direction, and 60 feet in one direction for that tower to be lowered. If you have a 90-foot tower, 45 feet in every direction and 90 feet in one direction. So the guy wires take up a lot of room, and there's also a noise factor to wind. So wind is one of those things that is it sounds wonderful in theory, but once you start adding the dollars together, it becomes very prohibitive for a lot of people, unless until you start moving north. Once you start moving north and you have long days of almost no sun, then wind is going to pay itself off in a short time. Oh, whoops, can't that one.
And the thing with wind too is it depends on where, if you are connected to the grid and you have a solar system for self-production, self-consumption, cost savings, then wind doesn't make a whole lot of sense. However, once you move into an off-grid situation, where again, we're talking every little bit of self-generated power matters to prevent the running of the generator, then wind does make sense if you have the space, if you have the budget to add that in. People always think about wind as I want to put a small turbine on the top of the house. Well, that's still micro wind, and it's still a lot of that development isn't really there yet to produce the kind of power that you would need. So maybe they could charge like a phone, or you can have a little light bulb, but it's not going to generate enough power to really offset your cost. So we're at either the big mega wind turbines or the little tiny turbines. There isn't a whole lot yet in that middle, that sort of smaller scale residential, but I know there are people working on it. There are companies. There's Borum Energy currently in Ontario. Their Ontario company that has a wind turbine that they are working on, that they have, that works. But again, it's that cost. And there are other companies across. There's another company in Alberta that is also working on micro wind for residential application. So definitely in the works. It's just not necessarily the right solution for the everyday homeowner. What do you do, from John, what do you do for ice buildup at the bottom of the roof panels? Chunks of ice could be deadly. Then,
They make snow stop systems that you can purchase now, and they're actually very new. Our suppliers have just added them to their price list this year. Some people will add the steel snow stop if it's a steel roof below the solar modules to help prevent slide off. If you're not in a location, if it's installed in a location where there isn't traffic, then it's not too big a deal. But I tell you, it's a pretty scary thing when ours comes off and you're standing nearby it. That's a lot of snow shedding at once off of a 45-degree roof. So it is. It can be problematic in some situations. So if you don't mind holding the snow up, then the snow stops are the the least expensive, best way of preventing slide off.
Susan Hay says, if you put solar panels on a roof of a shed near your house, are you able to take advantage of rebates?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's on a roof. It's as long as it's a permanent structure on the property. We've put it on garages, we've put it on sheds. I mean, depending on the size of the shed, at the size of current solar modules, some of the sheds wouldn't be large enough to hold one. So depending on the size of the shed, we can certainly look at it. But as long as it's a permanent structure and it's on a roof, they haven't turned any of them down yet that I've heard, that I know of. So that should be good. And then Daniel says, generally, how well does solar work in the winter compared to summer? If you clear snow off the panels, how about the batteries? So yeah.
So solar modules in the winter in direct sunlight, when we do get direct sunlight, perform phenomenally well. The colder a solar module is, the better it performs. Not only that, but almost everything now is bifacial. So if your solar modules are on the ground, you get a high reflectivity off the snow, and you get a fair amount of bifacial gain. I've watched some customers arrays overproduce by 25% over the actual nameplate. So if they say they can produce 5 kilowatts, I've seen over 7 kilowatts get produced on that 5 kilowatt array on a really bright, sunny summer day. The hard part in winter is that, if anybody who lives in Northern Ontario knows that, in December you might get 2 days of sun if you're lucky. So, for 3 months we're limited to, what did we have one December a couple of years ago?
93 kilowatt hours in the whole month of December, which is for some people what they use in one day. So if you're off grid and that was your life, then the generator was running a lot. As for batteries, I mean, with new lithium, so batteries a couple of years ago, lithium batteries specifically, didn't fare well in the cold. They don't charge below 0, and that was problematic. So they had to be in an environmentally controlled space. All of the new and upcoming batteries all have internal self-heating, which means they heat themselves up to temperature so they can charge, which opens up where you can store your batteries. Where, like I said, you were very limited to where they could go. Now they can go in a garage, on heated space, in a shed, as long as they're sheltered.
For grid connected customers, you can even go outside on the side of the house. Not good for off grid, but for grid connected, it's going to add a little bit to your bill. But if you're offsetting with solar, you're not going to notice that additional power usage.
All right, so Paul says, I constructed a walkway that allows me to clear the roof mounted panels. I only need to do that when there's a heavy wet snow. Light snow melts and slides off some days. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's about -5 outside, then your modules or your solar panels are going to clear, because they tend to operate at about 10 degrees C over ambient temperature.
Yeah.
It's I always tell people your worst enemy on solar is that nice warm wet winter day where you get a nice wet snow and then it flash freezes overnight. That tends to hold the snow on there, and it makes it a little harder to get things off.
Okay. And Susan says, do you have any experience with bifacial? Yes, we've been installing bifacial solar modules now for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
3 years, yeah. And we always, when we first started installing them, we started looking. So all the new systems that we install all have remote monitoring, and it allows us to check in on our customer systems. If they have any questions or they're having problems, they call us. We can log in from behind the scenes and see where those problems are. So once we had the ability to install bifacial modules, we started checking the monitoring just to see how production was compared to bifacials, non-bifacial, because within 1 year, that's how it changed. And it was phenomenal, the difference.
We're into a new type of panel as of this year too. So previously we've used what they call a P-type panel, or there's other names for them. Now we've moved into an N-type panel. So we've gone into a higher efficiency. The cells are assembled differently. The wafers are different. I'm not going to get into it because I don't fully understand it. I just know it produces electricity better. So that's but they are, and they're actually quite a bit less expensive as well.
All right. And then Susan Craig says she's seen ads for a turbine called the Archimedes, obviously in the Archimedes screw. Do you know anything about it?
I've never heard of it, but
I have not
I'd
heard
be
of it.
interested in doing some digging.
Oh, there you go.
I
Cool.
have one more question.
Yeah.
With the bifacial panels,
Mhm.
how would you install them? Could you install them on a rooftop?
They wouldn't really have benefit on a roof because you wouldn't have reflection. They're too close to the roof. They're ideally mostly for either flat roofs where you have the angle, so there's that space because it has to reflect off the bottom. So if it's flat on a roof, they can't reflect.
But yes,
Yeah.
to answer your question, we do install bifacial on
Yes.
the roof because as of this year, every
Oh, yes.
manufactured is bifacial.
That's
So
true.
they don't manufacture a monofacial panel anymore because they figured out a couple of years ago that if they took the white backing off and just put a sheet of glass on there, that there would be bifacial gain.
Yeah.
So some of the smaller residential panels are still what they call a monofacial cell
Mhm.
with a piece of glass on the back that still allows bifacial gain on it. The larger commercial modules are a true bifacial module where you have a cell front and a cell back.
It's a virtual power plant in Hamilton. Are you familiar with this? Our sodium-based batteries on the horizon. So yes, you can talk about that.
Oh yeah, sodium-based batteries are coming and they're coming faster. Last year I was saying, expect them in 10 years. This year I'm saying expect them in 5. Blue Eddy, I'm off camera again. Blue Eddy, I think it was pretty sure it was Blue Eddy. Blue Eddy already has a portable system that uses sodium ion technology. In China, many of the scooter batteries that have been notorious for causing lithium fires are being replaced with sodium ion. Sodium ion is not ideal for motive storage, so for cars and that kind of thing, it has a heavier density, so you have less wattage per kilogram packed into a sodium ion battery. However, for stationary storage, sodium ion is ideal, where lithium's about 97% efficient. Sodium ion runs around 93% efficiency. But the cost is really where it's at. It's expected that sodium ion batteries are going to be anywhere from 5 to 10 times cheaper than lithium ion batteries and possibly last upwards of 30 to 40 years under constant cycling. But right now, that's a lot of conjecture based on what the companies out there are throwing out into the wind. So it's a wait and see, but companies like Sig Energy have already designed their platform to be able to accept sodium ion technology in the future. So with that platform, you've got lithium ion batteries in a stack. Each one is individually optimized. So if for some reason one of your lithium batteries has an early life, it ends in 12 years instead of 15 to 20 years, and sodium ion is the next available thing on the market, you're going to be able to drop that sodium ion pack in place with the existing lithium ion packs and continue to use it. So any company that's looked at far ahead is getting a lot of attention right now.
David asked if we've installed any panels vertically. Not yet. We've been investigating. We just haven't had any customers with the space or the property.
We have a
that could do it.
project coming up next year where we're doing vertical mount on 2 walls.
Yes, we're doing well. Yeah, so we're doing a project with vertical mount on a wall, but I thought I was looking at like fencing vertical because I've been looking into that a lot as well. I'm like, no, we don't have any fencing. But yes, we are doing one project with vertical wall mount on the side cladding of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that link in the chat there.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. Do you do solar water heating?
We don't.
Kegel does that.
Eagle does that.
Right. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank Carolina and Joel very much for the presentation. It was very informative.
Quite
I
well.
personally enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. It has been recorded, and as soon as we can get it edited and posted onto our YouTube channel, then you can tell your friends that they can watch the recording. And you
Okay, thank
you
you.
can watch it again if you want to have a little more
I'll
information.
show all my friends and family. It was funny. I was thinking a little bit. I feel like Romper Room because I don't see everybody, and I'm like, I see Allie and Peter, and I was so sad because nobody ever called my name. She never called me. She never saw me.
I've often thought that myself. Anyway, I really appreciate your time and energy that you've put into this presentation. It also occurred to me that if we were to write the IESO or customer relations at IESO and the Deputy Minister of Energy
Yeah.
to ask about increasing battery storage and what was the other? I forget the
Well,
terminology.
the battery cap and the solar, like the solar production generation side.
Yeah. So
And
if
especially because other provinces have a bigger cap, why doesn't Ontario? We should be at least the same.
exactly. So I have it in the back of my mind to write a letter
Yeah.
like that and use my MailChimp list to
Yeah.
get people to sign. I might need some help with that letter.
Okay.
Would you be available?
Well, we're actually working with CanREA, who is the Canadian Renewable Energies Association, and we're fighting the same fight, increasing caps, making the rules for battery storage a little bit easier, a little bit more flexible. They're so rigid. This is the way, and that way doesn't work everywhere. So we're actually working as part of that team to lobby to the government to make those changes and implement those changes across the board for commercial and residential customers.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's something I'll put on maybe my middle burner.
Awesome. Okay. Well, if anyone has any questions, we're always here, Haliburton Solar and Wind, to ask any questions. It's a journey and you don't know everything. So it's always good to ask. We have lots of people who just are curious about things, who want to learn more, and we're here to answer those questions.
Yeah. Well, again, I really appreciate you giving this presentation this evening, and
Thank you so much.
everybody who was able to listen in, and I appreciate your attendance. And please tell your friends about the recording that will soon become available.
Awesome. Thank you so
So
much.
I will wish you good night and enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Night, everybody.